Hey guys, welcome back to my channel, and today I'm going to be talking all about autism and the art of conversation making. So before I get into this video, I just want to say that not every autistic person's experience is the same as everyone else's. Some people might relate to this, some people won't. I talk from my own experiences in this video, and so don't take what I say and assume that it applies to every autistic person, because that's not the case. This is from my experience and talking generally for a majority of autistic people. So, conversations. You experience conversations all the time, every day. And for a neurotypical person, it's sort of second nature, because it is a part of life, it's a part of our daily routine to have conversations. But for an autistic person or a neurodivergent person, there's actually a lot of steps involved in making a conversation. And this could be, for example, preparing what to say beforehand, or thinking of answers to what they might ask you, or reminding yourself to look at them all the time so you look like you're engaged, or how you should be standing, or thinking about what you might say next, and how to look or sound in a conversation. To most people that just comes naturally. You don't worry or overthink about these things. For me, I find it much easier to make conversation with people I'm close with or feel comfortable with. So when I'm around people that I am close with or I feel comfortable with, I don't think about all those steps in preparing a conversation. It's easy. It doesn't worry me about what am I going to say, will I say something wrong, or, you know, what do I need to be looking at them, or blah blah blah. I feel able to be myself, and the conversation just comes naturally, which is great. But it also helps a huge amount as well if the person on the other side of the conversation is good at making conversation. Because when you've got someone such as myself that's not always great at making conversation, and then the other person is quiet, or they're not great at asking questions or making conversation, then it makes it even more difficult to keep the conversation flowing and going, because you're both sort of standing there going, I don't know what to say now, like, this is awkward. So it helps if they're really good at making conversation as well. And I find that a lot with myself, is that when people ask me questions, I'm really good at replying to them. I'm not necessarily good at creating the conversation and asking the questions myself, which is why I find it really helpful to prepare in advance. Oh, I could ask them this, or I could ask them that. And that's quite common with a lot of autistic people. So there are a few things that can really affect how an autistic person is able to hold a conversation. Things such as knowing the person, like I just said, feeling comfortable with the person, sensory input around you, being in an unfamiliar or a new setting, and things like processing time. So, for example, there was a time when my church was meeting outdoors for a picnic and a service, and I don't know why I'm saying this because this is really embarrassing, but I didn't really know many people from the church, because I sort of joined, and then a month and a half after I joined we went into lockdown. So even like joining a community group and meeting people was all really done on Zoom. And so we had this meeting, and I turned up with a couple people that I did know, and I went to sit down on this picnic rug with the people that I had sort of become close with online, that I'd not really had the chance to meet in real life and get to know them and have conversations with them. And one of the ladies introduces me to someone and says, oh, this is Holly, and I said, oh, hi. And then I sort of went all awkward, and I then sort of started to ask a question, something about motorbikes. I was feeling really confident. I was like, right, I'm gonna just ask a question, like, be brave. And so I think I said something like, oh, it's cool, like, that you ride a motorbike, like, how long have you ridden a motorbike, or something like that. and I'm not even sure that the person heard me, but to be honest, I'm not even sure I made any sense. I think it all just sort of came out as like, oh yes, and then I like looked down and I was really awkward and I was like, Holly, what was that? It was so embarrassing. And it's funny because I'm really good friends with a lot of the people now, and I don't think I've ever like mentioned that story before, but it just goes to show that when you don't prepare for things, that's when it can go horribly wrong. So things such as sensory stimuli can be really overwhelming for an autistic person. So for example, I really struggle with loud noise, and that's quite a lot like sharp, stark loud noises. So for example, fireworks going off, a car that revs their engine as they go past, thunderstorms scare me, and more general noise such as like when there's so many conversations going at once, I tend to zone out because I can't focus because it gets a bit overwhelming with all the noise. Or things like strong smells. I really don't like smelly things, so if you're going to have a conversation with me down a candle aisle in Tesco's, it's not going to happen because I'm just not going to be able to focus on anything until I get out the aisle. And let's be honest, I'm not going in the aisle in the first place. This can all be really overwhelming for an autistic person, and they might either shut down or get overwhelmed or zone out from a conversation, and that can really affect an autistic person's ability to hold a conversation. I actually find, for me, having a conversation over a text message a lot easier than having a conversation face to face. And there's a few reasons for that. Autistic people are known for having a slower processing time than neurotypical people. So that means that when someone is having a conversation with me and they say a piece of information that I want to remember, it might take me a bit longer than an average person to retain that information, understand what they've said, and then think about how am I going to respond to this. And this is why I like conversationing, is that a word? Conversationing? No, conversationing, I just made that up probably, over text message, because you haven't got that pressure to respond immediately, and you can read what they've said, take it in, think about it, and then start to think about, okay, what could I say back? And you don't have to respond immediately, and you've got the time to think things through. I also really like the fact that you can edit a conversation in a message, whereas in real life, once you've said something, that's it. Like, it's out there forever. You can't change what you've said. I mean, sure, you can say, oh, I didn't mean that, I meant to say this, but it's sort of too late. Whereas in a message, you can type something out and then go, well, actually, I'm not sure that sounds quite right, or that might come across in a certain way. I'm just going to change what I've said before I send it. And that's really helpful, especially because in real life, I find a lot of the time I am misunderstood in what I say. So I will say something with the best intentions, knowing what I'm meaning to say in my head, but other people will interpret it differently when it comes out of my mouth. And it might come across as rude when it's not meaning to be. But one thing I do find easier in a face-to-face conversation than a text conversation is the fact that I find it really difficult to read and understand someone's tone behind a message. So a lot of the time people will send me messages and I will get upset because I think, oh, they're really mad at me, when actually they were just joking around, but I might not understand that from the way that they've written it. Whereas in real life, you can better read someone's facial expressions or their tone of voice to understand the meaning behind what they're saying. A lot of autistic people will have a script in their head that they will follow to navigate a conversation. So for example, when I meet someone, I'll often start the conversation with, hey, which obviously everyone starts a conversation with, and then they might say back, "Hey, how are you?" And then I'll reply with, "I'm good, thanks, how are you?" And then they'll say, "Oh yeah, I'm fine, thanks." Or if they say, "Oh, I'm not fine," then obviously that leads into being able to have a conversation saying, "Oh, why are you not okay?" Or, "Oh, I'm glad you're okay." And that is how I start pretty much every conversation, because it feels safe to me and I know what the answer to the question is most likely going to be. Another example is when I'm at my cafe and I'm taking people's payments when they're about to leave. I'll say to them, "Oh, it's such and such amount." I'll say, "Are you paying by cash or card?" And then I'll say, "Okay, there you go, when you're ready." I hand them the card machine. I'll say, "Yep, that's all done for you. Have a nice day," or "Have a good rest of your day." And I will pretty much lead every conversation with that. Or I might say, "Are you doing anything nice the rest of the day?" And it's not necessarily because I'm interested in what they're doing the rest of the day, although, yeah, sometimes I am, but it just feels safe to know that I'm making conversation, and it makes the goodbye less awkward by having something prepared to say rather than being like, "Oh, yeah, bye, okay, yeah, right, thanks," and not really knowing what to do or say. It's almost like having a safety net to rely on of questions and comments in your mind that you can bring out in different situations so that you're not always having to think of them in the moment. So here are some things that you can implement into your life to help an autistic person better navigate a conversation and to make a conversation easier for an autistic person. Talk slowly and clearly. Sometimes this helps when we're trying to process information. If you're talking slowly and clearly, we can better understand what you're saying, and we will feel much more relaxed if you've got a gentle, calm tone to your voice than if you're shouting and you're talking really fast. That might confuse us or overwhelm us. Make it clear that there's no pressure for the person to be looking at you when they make the conversation. Like I said before, for someone on the spectrum, they might find it really difficult to make eye contact with someone, especially if it's a new person or a new situation. Make it clear that you understand that that's the case and you know that they're still going to be engaged in the conversation if they're not looking at you. Don't ask too many questions at once. I mean, this is a given, but again, with our processing time, we're not going to be able to answer any of your questions if you throw us 5 things at once, or if you're talking for a minute straight about something, we're not going to remember what you said at the start of the conversation. Break it down so it's easier to take in. Talk about things that you know interest the other person. Yes, it's not all about the autistic person and what they like, and they have to make their part of the conversation by asking things that they know you'll be interested in. But it really helps someone to feel at ease and relaxed if you ask them about things you know that they like, because that's when they feel more able to talk about things for a long time in a conversation or spark questions about a certain topic. If you can tell that there's sensory input that's really bothering the person, see if they would find it easier if you moved away from it, so that you can continue to have the conversation with ease. For example, if you're in a building with 100 people and you can tell that they're sort of not paying attention and they're zoning out because of all the different conversations going on at once, you could say to them, "Do you want to go outside and finish our conversation? I know it might be a bit loud in here." Things like that will just make it so much easier and so much more relaxed for an autistic person to navigate and hold a conversation. So I hope you find all this useful. I will put a link in the description down below to my autism series that I have been doing on my channel, and if you did find this helpful, then let me know in the comments what you learned from this video and what you're going to take away from it, and let me know what helps you if you're autistic in navigating a conversation, especially in new situations or with new people. And if you did like this video, make sure to give it a thumbs up and ring the bell to receive notifications every time I upload a new video. And subscribe to my channel because I said so. And I'm putting out some really cool videos, so you don't want to miss them. And I will see you next time.